We will start with Student Talk, which is a version of Una Talk. I don't know how many of you is familiar with this concept, but Una Talk is basically a discussion between experts from different fields on a specific topic. In Student Talk, our experts are students from different universities and different backgrounds who will discuss the concept of University of the Future. What is it, how it would work, and when we can expect it to exist. Moreover, in a second part, we will all have a chance to ask the questions to our panelists. So now I would like to invite our panelists on the stage. Okay, so we'll start with Miguel Roses. He is a fourth-year student of a Bachelor in Political Science at the University the Complutense in Madrid, in Spain. He is the academic. In the academic fieldwork, besides of his involvement in a student task force in Madrid, he is a part of the pilot project of the US simulation of the Council of the UE. And he is currently doing his internship in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Miguel has decided to join the panelist board as he believes that the university should be the institution that sets the pace to make changes in society. He believes that the Student Congress provides a unique opportunity to listen to students who are at the heart of the Una Europa project and help shape the future of the university. Okay, and now, there's supposed to be Brian, but due to personal circumstances, he won't be able to join us. So I would like to welcome Dominique Abbas. He's from Paris, from Sorbonne. He is a first-year master's in international relationships. For over 2 years, he was in student board. Yeah, Dominique, would you like to add something about you?
That was the most accurate presentation done of me in so much time, so thank you, it's perfect.
And now for the Magdalena Herman with a Bachelor in Chinese Studies. She is currently a first-year student of Master in Jagiellonian in Strategic Studies over Asia, as well as first-year student of Bachelor in Administration in the Jagiellonian University. Even though born and raised in Poland, she has lived quite some time in Spain. Besides of fluently speaking Polish, Spanish, Catalan, and English, she currently holds an intermediate level of Chinese. Among her interests, she enjoys political science, more specifically migration and consequences. Within UJ, she is the Vice President of UJ Student Council, as well as the co-chair of the university's Cultural Committee. Magda believes that every change starts at the bottom. Thus, she has joined the panelist board with the belief that to develop a university of the future, the students, besides of being the base of it, need to be the ones who believe the most in the process of creating such university. And now for Grace Harp. She's a Romanian Lebanese, first year of the Una Europa Joint Bachelor in European Studies at the Jagiellonian University in Kraków in Poland. Grace has decided to be part of the Student Congress, as she always is looking forward to opportunities to impact in a positive way the people around her. By joining the panelist board, she trusts that she will be given the privilege of discussing the very relevant issue of the University of the Future, which other students like herself may hold many diverse opinions and refreshing ideas. So, thank you all for coming. Maybe a little applause for our panelists, thank you. Okay, I'll start by asking you the first question. So what does it really mean to belong in a context of University of the Future?
Well, I can start with answering the question. First of all, we have to understand how important is the feeling of belonging. We saw that in all our history. All the nations, all the music groups, all of them try to create that feeling of belonging that K-pop and Georgia has that feeling of belonging for the music group. So, for example, this student congress is a good idea, it's a good way to create this feeling of belonging. So in my opinion, the definition, the essential definition, would be to have a common interest inside a group. We all share the values that Una Europa tries to spread around the world, the values that are trying to implement in the University of the Future. So that would be the essence, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that belonging is like one of the most crucial and important things and matters in like one's life, and it has a very wide meaning, but everybody needs this feeling, and all of us, as I think I'm right, we are students, so our biggest place where we want to belong is university. And if we're thinking about the University of the Future, there are also many meanings of the University of the Future, but still everybody wants to belong, and everybody wants to feel important, wants to know that their voice matters. And I think that it's very important for us to be here actually and discuss this matter, because this is the thing that can possibly make a change. Because if we want students to belong, if we want them to feel that they belong, we have to make a room for them for that. And with that room, it will be possible, and we will make the best universities in the world. We can have the best students in the world, people who right now are students, but in some years there will be whomever they want to be. And I think that it's the most important, because everything starts with this belonging, with the feeling that their voice matters, that they are important, and that they will not be scared to say what they think is true and necessary.
Sorry about that. So for me I guess to feel like we belong is when we feel like we're placed in an environment that allows us to grow, that allows us to share our opinions, to share our interests, to express our ideas in a setting in which we feel accepted and respected. So in the context of a University of the Future, I would say it's such an international concept that to belong in this general context is to feel like us coming from different backgrounds, from different countries. We speak different languages and we believe different things. In the University of the Future, to belong is to feel like we have a chance to share these cultures and to share these ideas and to belong to something greater than ourselves. And so generally to belong is to feel like we are a part of something where we feel respected and accepted, and that we get the opportunities to achieve everything that we set out to do.
Yeah, I completely agree with what has just been said. I think that the first thing about belonging is that it is powerful. It is powerful because it creates a sense of responsibility amongst the community. If you just pass by something, you don't care about where it's going or what its future will be. If you feel that you belong to a sports team, to a nation, to a company, to a university, you care about how it will evolve. And in most of the context, some of the context, we can spare belonging, because if you work for a company but you don't feel that you belong to the company will continue to run, probably, without you or without your belonging. But we have to understand what a university is, because I'm trying to answer from Boyan's perspective, but I had the chance, and we had the chance with Boyan to be in the student board, trying for now 2 years to build the European University of the Future. And it's always the same question of what is a university, because we don't have a campus in Una Europa. We have 8 and now 11 different universities. How do we create this? What's a university, really? And it's quite funny because all our universities have their own sense of belonging, their own identity. When you're in Paris, you feel that you belong to the Sorbonne. When you're in Bologna, you feel that you belong to your alma mater. It's even that Bologna has alma mater in its name. It's the mother of university. So of course you feel that you belong to Bologna. And a university is unique. The concept of university is unique because it is not motivated by profit. It is motivated only by people who got together one day, around 1,000 of years ago, and decided together that they could constitute a body of knowledge. That by working together, they could use what they know, they could try to know more, and that they could use all of this to be impactful on their society, to know more about the world, but to be creators of the world they're in. And it can't be achieved without the students. That's why belonging is so important for me and why I insist on the history of universities. Histories only exist because there are students in it. And when we create the European University of the Future, if we create it without the students, we're just not creating a university.
Yeah, that's great. And I also think that one of the biggest assets of University of the Future would be students from completely different cultures and backgrounds. So now I would like to ask you how students from different countries and different cultures could find a unique identity in the Alliance.
I would like to start off by saying that since this alliance is such an international idea, it links together so many different, not only countries, but cultures and languages. And us as students and as teachers and as every single member of the Alliance coming from a different part of the world, coming from a different upbringing, different backgrounds, different beliefs, simply by being a part of the Alliance, by participating in things like this where we get to express ourselves and express our opinions, we are building this sort of identity, this international identity for ourselves by sharing our culture with people, by speaking our languages, by simply expressing our opinions and participating in activities that make us feel like we belong and that make us feel like we're contributing to society. Really just helps with forming this sort of unique identity within so many different identities that we form within a university, because we are all so unique in so many different ways, and within this international context, we are granted so many diverse opportunities to express that, whether by participating in things that match our interests or by simply being present and hearing everything that's going on around us. So there's just so many ways that this sort of alliance could help us create that.
Now, I want to bring an idea now, because what I think that the next step should be for the Una Europa project is focus more on the local task force of every university. In my case, in Complutense, most of the students don't know about Una Europa because there's no publicity there. There's the local task force just was created a month ago, and every student that I talked about Una Europa, all of them were they really liked the idea. They really liked the idea of the University of the Future. They also shared that universities must change, especially Complutense. No. Sorry. But yes, the next step should be the local task force. Should be that each university spreads the values of Una Europa. Each university, for example, the language tandem, it's a good idea, that was made in a local task force, was made in Bologna, and it was brought up to all the universities. Things like that, projects that start in a university and that are spread throughout all the universities that are in the Una Europa project.
I agree with Miguel, but I also think that we really should put much more forces and work into our local universities, because like I will say it from my perspective, because I'm not really connected to Una Europa. I'm more in a students' council, but I've lived in many countries, like the most time in Spain. But what I know from my perspective is that there is a lot of there's a huge problem with internationalization within the universities, within the schools, in the more local places. Like, for example, here in Poland, we have a lot of Ukrainians, but they are really not interested in connecting with Polish people or with other nationalities here in Poland. I'm also the president of the Cultural Committee in Students' Council, and I'm organizing many parties, you could say. And our problem is that we want to make it. We want every student to feel welcome there, from every nationality, with every religion, with everything, like everybody. But there is a huge problem with encouraging them, with making them feel that we want them there. And it also comes to the first question, to belonging. If we want to internationalize the universities, the students, the world, we need to start from the bottom, and we need to start with working on the belonging matter, so that everybody could really think that they are part of something. Is it the university, or is it the Una Europa Alliance, or is it anything else? It's crucial.
Thank you. I think the question is behind what can we give to students, or what can they find in this international context, is how are we relevant? Why do we exist? And I think that, of course, the answer to that question depends on your perspective on the problem. But I hate answers starting with "we live in a world." But we live in a world where everything has to be black or white, truth or lie, or right or wrong. And the more we go on, the more the world is polarized. We have studies showing that the world has never been so polarized. And in that, identity can be a threat in the way that if you have only one way of seeing the world, only one language to communicate, only one approach to the topic, you are locking yourself in a box. And that's the question of the Una identity. What is Una identity? I honestly don't know today what Una identity is. What I know is that we have as many languages as we have universities. Well, I know that we have as many different ways of interpreting what political science, international relations, law, sociology, even engineering is, as we have universities. And of course it can be difficult in everyday life when you have to create things together, but it also means that we are ensuring that the students involving themselves in Una Europa will live an experience which will bring them a multiplicity of perspectives and another way to see the world. And if we want to address today's and tomorrow's challenges, I mean, we had this talk yesterday in the morning, it was amazing. Well, the situation is terrible. We have climate change, we have social inequalities, we have so many challenges to face, and we can only face them by having smart people able to look at problems from a multiplicity of perspectives. So that's what we can bring to the students. And I completely agree also on the work that has been done inside the local task force, because when you come to a university, you're always like, what can I do? And it's not always easy to find an answer to that. And engaging in your local task force, and maybe students are watching us today, not only in this room, but also online, engaging in your local task force, taking part in Una Europa, is not only a way of learning things, it's a way of being a creator of your environment and having impact. And I think that this is incredibly useful.
Yeah, great. So Dominique explained what is the purpose of belonging and why students should feel that they belong to a certain group. And I would like to hear from the rest of the panelists, what are you thinking about it? Why is it important for students to have this feeling of belonging?
Well, we already said many things about that. The importance of belonging to something bigger, that your voice is heard. I think that for students, at least in my perspective, we have the motivation to do things. We want to make changes, but we don't know how. We have all this technology available, but we don't really know where to start to make changes. So the sense of belonging is really important because it's a way to start to use this motivation as a fuel, for example, to create this university of the future. I think feelings like pride for your university, for example, if you study in the Sorbonne, how is it pronounced? Your university, Sorbonne? Sorbonne? In Spanish, sorry. You say it with pride. I heard all of you from France say that you study in Sorbonne. It's not the case with Complutense, but it is. Sorry, I'm joking. I'll stop.
That's funny because you don't say you study in Madrid, you say you study in Complutense. And that means that you belong to Complutense and to a university.
That's
which
right.
is more than just a city, it's not just a location, it's a place.
Also, I was speaking with Oscar before, and what we think is that studying a degree is important, but nowadays it's more important the extracurricular things that you do, the events, for example, this one, Student Congress. And universities should emphasize in those things. Nowadays, the universities are losing prestige because we use the universities just to get a job, just to access to the employee life. And sometimes the degree isn't enough even. You need a master's degree, and even sometimes it's not enough. Universities should take advantage of that atmosphere that they can create in the campus, in everywhere. Those spaces like this, to speak, to give your opinion, to lose that fear to participate in society. So that's what should be done, in my opinion. But I would like to hear you now.
Me?
All of you.
So I totally agree with you, and I think that you said one thing, that we don't know what to do to feel that we belong, and I think that us here, we knew what to do because we are here, and what people should do, they should start to act, and they should start to do things, to go, I don't know, somewhere. Not like, it can be within the university, like for example the circles or something like that, or the students' council or the alliances like Una Europa or something. But we have to start from the bottom, from the very small things, that if we feel that that's something we want to do, that it's something that we feel that we matter there, we can make changes there, or at least we can learn something from this place. That's the thing students should do. And I think that encouraging students in our universities, and not only in the universities, but like everywhere, but I'm saying universities because that's like our first place, to act, to start doing things is something that can really make the biggest change, because that's where they are from, and all of us are from some universities. Some of us identify with the universities, some of us identify with the city, or some of us with both of them, or some of us with nothing of that. For example, when because I'm not from Kraków, like originally, but when I came to Kraków, I wasn't really feeling the vibe of the city or the university. I was really scared and lost here. But I was like, I remember one evening when I was sitting on my bed crying in my room, And I was like, I have to do something with myself, because if I won't start acting now, I will go home and, I don't know, work in a shop or something. But I knew that working in a shop was not something that is like for me, that I'm for bigger things. And I think that everyone here is here because he believes in that too, that we are the one that can make change, but we are here because we started from the bottom and we started acting, and one day we thought, I'll try this place, maybe it will be fun for me, or maybe I can learn something from this place. And we are here, so I think that this is the thing.
I agree very much with what has previously been stated, but my experience, I guess, with coming to Kraków was a bit different. So regardless of the fact that when I came to Poland, I could probably only say good morning in Polish, regardless of the fact that I lived outside of Europe for my entire life, I felt very welcome and very integrated when I arrived in Kraków. So this is, I guess, one of the most important factors, is that we believe that we can thrive and we believe that we can grow when we are put in an environment that we feel like we can belong. So since I've gotten to Kraków, the Una Europa team has been very supportive, and so this is a big reason, for example, that I'm doing this today, because I feel like I'm a part of a community in which I belong and in which my ideas are accepted. So a big issue I've noticed is that some of us are not always encouraged to participate in different things because we don't feel like maybe we are a part of something bigger than ourselves. So this is something that I'm actually really happy was sort of formed with the international aspect of this alliance, is that because we all come from different places, but somehow we've combined into smaller groups all around the world in which we feel like we resonate with our classmates and we feel that we can contribute to the people around us. So essentially the whole idea of belonging is probably one of the most important human emotions, because without it we simply cannot operate as a part of a group. We need this sort of human sense of belonging to be able to achieve everything we set out to do and for us to be able to grow in the environment we're put in. So I really agree with everything that has been brought forward about initiatives and encouraging and such. So it's just a really important sense that us as students should work with each other to create, because at the end of the day, we are the sort of community and we're the ones who are supposed to integrate with each other. So I feel like that's really important.
And I think we can all agree that the streets of Krakow can seem scary the first time you come in the night. I think it's the perfect place for Halloween this year, so I'm really happy to be here. I think we can also answer on a political way to that question. Why is sense of belonging important in Una Europa? Because Una Europa right now is being done. We launched the joint bachelor in European Studies. We will be launching other joint innovative formats for education. We're creating formats of mobility. We're creating content. We're doing things. If students don't feel like they belong to it, they won't take part in it. They won't be co-creators. They won't engage in their local task force. They won't attend the student board meetings because it would have no sense for them. And it means that the European University of the future will be built without the students. And that's something that we cannot allow because, as I said, students are the first benefitors of this. And you need to have a student input in the way that this is all created and built if you wish it to stay in time and to be efficient. And then there's, for students, so this was the political answer. Now you can have the inspirational one for your Instagram. So in Japan, people were asking themselves how did they do to have people working up to 70 years sometimes doing some job which for someone else will seem meaningless or useless. And they discovered a thing which I love, which is called ikigai. It's a Japanese concept of finding what you wish to do in life and how you can be useful. And basically, it's like you take a Venn diagram, you take 3 circles, what I can do, what I can learn, and what I like to do. And when you find a combination of these 3, you find how you can be useful. And that's what we should strive for, especially as students. In France, we have 2 different words for, in high school, you're an élève, you're a learner. In university, you're a student, an étudiant. It means that you have something else to do than to learn, and it is precisely to act, and that's what we should all strive for.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think like if students will feel like they belong, they will act. That's for sure. But we know that as a organization, as a students' organization, we will have a lot of challenges to face. I remember Dominique mentioned climate change. It was also a topic brought out by Marta Shaw during her presentation. And I'm really curious about your approach and your ideas, how the universities would prepare and how to adapt the university to face the climate catastrophe.
I can start. I think the main problem here is to acknowledge the students and people how big the problem is. Because we can see in the news, I don't know, extreme climate, storms, heat waves, but we don't really live that enough. It's going to be simple, but it's hard. But maybe the only thing that you need is to show students, to show the future, because we are the future, the students, to show them how big the problem is, how can it affect us in the future, because it will affect us sooner or later. So, in my opinion, doing workshops or telling the local task force to engage the students in each university, to teach them the consequences of their actions. I know that we all traveled in plane, and it's not really good to say this after that, but maybe in the future, well, I love the Student Congress. I love this idea because this helps us with the feeling of belonging. We meet each other. The last activity, the Una Connect, we met a lot of people. It was exhausting. I'm an introvert, it's so hard for me. But I really love these activities. But I think that for the future, for sustainability, local task force should be in the main stage, and each year the Student Congress should take all the ideas that during the year have been made, for example, with climate change, and spread them around the rest of universities. I think that's my opinion.
My answer to this would be somewhere along the lines of what was just mentioned. The big issue about climate change now is that we know what it is, but we don't know much about it. As students who are not doing maybe scientific majors, or as students who are focusing on different disciplines. So I am a part of a Bachelor of European Studies, where the biggest maybe aspect of the program is European societies and international integration. So, and climate change isn't necessarily very integrated into our curriculum. So I think that because climate change in general is becoming such a prominent issue, and it's such a serious issue that affects basically every aspect of life, the first step should be to integrate it into our university studies, to integrate it into our university life. Because we know what climate change is, but we don't really, as individuals, maybe contribute towards eliminating it, or we're not necessarily very aware of all the consequences and all the aspects of it. So basically one of the biggest parts, maybe apart from making buildings and institutions more eco-friendly, is actually making sure that we know more about it and about integrating it into our studies and into our general lives, because it's something so seriously impactful. So that's kind of just what I wanted to add.
I think that the problem is that, it's what you said, that people really don't know what it is. Like, everybody is hearing about it in the news everywhere, He's seeing it with the bills we are paying right now, but they don't know what it is. And it's the same thing that happened a couple of months ago here in Poland. Like, I mean, we felt it a lot, but it's the war in Ukraine. And I have a friend that he's studying Ukrainian studies, and I was talking with him, asking him, like, hey, what happens there? I mean, will there be a war or not? And he was like, no, come on, no, there will be no war. Like, what are you talking about? And the next day, we got the news that it's the opposite. Everybody was thinking. And the same afternoon, we had a huge, enormous amount of refugees in the borders of Poland. And I think that is the same with the climate change, that we are very used to living in a safe world where we have everything we need. I mean, I'm not talking about money, but I'm talking about the air, the water, the food. I mean, we are very lucky to have all of these things because it's not obvious to have it. It's not obvious to own it. Of course, right now, like Poland has to face a huge inflation, but so everything is not as cheap as it used to be. But it's something we have to force. And the same with the climate change. Right now we are just like, I mean, we are just talking about it. And what are we doing? We are doing some infographics. For example, you can see many infographics in the bathrooms to turn off the water or turn off the light. Cities start to use hybrid or electronic vehicles. Universities start to build some reusable energy machines or everything. But we are still not feeling the problem. But the problem with it is that we will start to feel it when it will be too late. And actually, I'm interested in migration, and I know that right now it is already too late, because within a couple years we will not have water because the icelands are melting. And right now we are using water that is from Iceland. Everything will be so expensive that we will be not able to afford it. And of course we will accommodate to that. We will just change ourselves a little bit. We will switch to another life because all life is change. And yes, but students, not only students, I mean everyone, I think, is not really feeling this problem. And what's more, we are, as I said before, we are talking about it a lot. And because of this topic being so common, so popular, I think that many people are like bored with this topic. Like they're not interested anymore because they don't see the problem. They're like, oh, they're just talking. Like, what's the problem? I will just pay more, or I will just buy cheaper things. But yeah, that's the problem.
I think there's something that we still have to judge altogether between impact and awareness, because I think that's the two things that our universities are able to do. The first one is awareness, of course, make people aware that, hey, we might all die soon. I think we've done it for the past 10 years. I think we're doing it more and more. And unfortunately, I don't see things really changing. I mean, we've had scientists for the last decades on TV saying, hey, we might all die soon. First they said, CO2 levels are rising, and then they became more elaborate, and they finished by, hey, we will really die soon, so we should do something. And last time I checked, they were projecting tomato soup to paintings so they could raise awareness. And I think that shows the limit of awareness, of how we're really changing something. And the other way, we have impact. Because our universities are the key to the change that we want to see in the world. I know I sound like the Mahatma Gandhi, but I mean, we need engineers to create the car of the future. We need biologists to understand the rainforest. We need cognitive science to understand how people decide between two choices, one being environmental and the other not. We need philosophy, we need sociology, we need all these fields that we are learning and that we are researching in our universities to be able to address. How did we solve the need for more energy with time? We created in our universities nuclear energy. How did we solve the problem of feeding hundreds of millions and then billions of people? We created the nutrients that were needed to have this massive agriculture to feed everybody. That's how we solve challenges. And we have, I hope, I think, having talked with most of you these last 2 days, some bright minds in this room, and minds able to find solutions. And that's how the University of the Future is relevant. The University of the Future is not about studying just cognitive science or sociology or philosophy or biology. It's about working together to see how we can use all we know, all the way that we have to face challenges individually, but face it together and find solutions together. And yeah, that's something that we have to judge. I don't have the answer between should we just create awareness or should we focus more on impact, but I think these are the two sides of the coin here that are at play.
I would like to add something, if I can, just really quickly. I think that you are totally right, but what we need the most, apart of all of these things that you mentioned, is the unity. And those are the leaders we need that will unite all of this and that will lead the generations to make a change, to do something about it. Because we have the biologists, we have the chemists, we have the physics, we have every sort of people that are searching this problem, that are searching for the answers, for the help, for the planet and for all of us. But yes, they can say we need to do something because we will all die soon. But isn't it like the truth that we will all die soon, like no matter what? So in case to die later than sooner, we need the leaders who will grab all of these things together and that will lead the people to do changes. Because, like, for example, we don't need only us. I mean, we can do nothing because we're just like so little. But we need the whole generation to act, to do things, to I don't know. We need to be united and we need to stay sticking together because, in my opinion, that's the only way that we can do something. Sorry.
No worries at all. I actually wanted to add something that I was reminded by in your previous answer. We have something like it's very human nature of, oh, I have an essay due next week, I have time to do it, or I have to do something, oh, I'm sure I can do it later. And unfortunately, it's so integrated, I guess, into the human mind that we apply it even on these larger contexts, on these larger problems. So for us to actually deal with the issue of climate change, we have to be ready to acknowledge how quickly it's happening and how quickly we are getting to a point where we can no longer say, I'll do this tomorrow or I'll do this next week. So this is, I guess, for me at least, one of the biggest points is that we still, to a certain extent, don't acknowledge how bad it's become and we don't acknowledge how bad it's going to be. So that's, I guess, what we need to really work on understanding, because once we've got over that little time obstacle, we can do great things.
Yeah, I would like to give a chance to you guys to maybe ask.
I will unfortunately be asking this question and then leaving within about 10 minutes because I have a bus to catch. But over the past few days, we've been having a lot of really interesting conversations about this kind of the essence of the university and about changing the concept of a university from just an institution of an information factory and a place to just get a degree and move on to a community space, to a space of sharing ideas, taking action. But something that we need to consider, and I'd quite like to hear you address, is how do we ensure that by creating that space where people within universities are not only learning, but kind of building the future, how do we avoid then creating an access and a class divide with those who, for various very valid reasons, don't want to join a university space, but then they don't get to participate in all that is not getting a degree, all this future building.
May I answer? That's interesting because it's a topic on which we did some really great Lego building yesterday about integrating our universities in their environment. That's always the question with university, and we have different approach, I think, of that across the Alliance, for instance, of do we wish to have only a small proportion of the people of our country to go to university, or do we wish to send as many people as we can to university? I will personally answer that we need to send as many people as we can to university. For those who can't, and there's nothing bad in not going to university or not having learned at university, you still have a role to play. Because you still have the power of engaging, the power of creating in NGOs, in non-profit, in taking part. There was some time where you could get elected as a politician without having a degree, and when you could get engaged without having a degree, and that's what we should strive for. And our society should be included in that global, regional, local environment in a way that nobody is being left out. And not going to university should not be a disability. It should be just a different way. But what we do, and that's about basically breaking walls. It's about that. What we do here should not stay here. It should be outside. We should debate it. And it's also part of the solution, I think. If we imagine great solutions to climate change all together here, and then we take our planes back to our cities, we could sleep well tonight. I mean, thinking, okay, we solved the problem. But if we don't engage largely with people and with everybody as a community, as a belonging, then we did nothing. And that's what it's university. It's universal. It's meant for everybody, not just for a small elite of people being learned. And that's what we should strive for. Sorry, I'm always thinking it Una Europa. That's what we should strive for at Una Europa. It will be creating this kind of university, which is leaving nobody behind.
I'm going to be a little bit skeptical of what was said by the panelists, but please don't take it personally. It's just that I'm a little bit confused because many of you said that we don't understand the real vast scope of the things that would be happening due to the climate change. We know what it is, but we don't specifically know how it affects our everyday life. And I am just going on a limb here and assume that actually this is not the case, because we have the information. Yesterday we had a very thorough and very profound presentation, given also the statistics and the numbers of studies showing us that we know already that we are exploiting our Earth. The information is out there. We also heard yesterday that we are the most informed society right now that has ever existed on the face of the Earth. All the information is out there and available. Probably not everyone can access this in an equal way, but I think at this point, it's everyone's responsibility to just go out there and educate themselves about the effects of the climate change. I mean, we see every day, every year, Paris, Spain is burning because of heat waves. Greece is burning because of heat waves. Many countries now who usually have been not affected by floodings are now affected by rising sea levels and so on and so forth. We have more and more droughts. We see that every day in the news. So how can it be that people do not see the effect and how this actually impacts our everyday life? I think that a lot of people already know. Maybe there is a cleavage between Western societies and the global North. I can totally understand that. Maybe also there's a cleavage between Western Europe and Eastern Europe, that there's a lack of awareness and sensibility. But again, the information is out there. I think it's still everyone's responsibility also as a citizen of the world just to educate and inform themselves.
I think that it's a very important notice, and that's a very important voice. And I think that you're totally right. Like, we have the information. We have the access to everything. It just go look on the internet and you will find everything. And if you're thinking critically, you may see what's true and what's not true. But the thing that you mentioned, the burning woods, the droughts, the high temperatures, it's something that actually affects a relatively small amount of people, because it only affects the ones that are living in this particular place where it happens. The rest of them are, whether they're not interested in volunteering and help, the rest of the world is like watching it on a television. And they're like, oh, it's happening somewhere. Oh, maybe we should start act. But then within a week or 2 weeks or a month, they just forget about it because they're not living in this problem. And I think that that's the main problem with all of it, that because we have the information, they are teaching us about it in the universities. We are reading the news, we are reading the information we want to read, but it's the same problem like with Ukraine, as I said, that everybody was thinking that the war will not happen. But then it happened, and that's when people started to believe it, that's when people started to feel it, that's when people started to be scared, because they felt it on their own skin. But also from my personal experience, because I was here in Kraków then, and I saw this really enormous amount of refugees. And I was talking to my Spanish friends, and I was actually talking to my ex-boyfriend, who's Spanish, and he was like, why are you so concerned about it? I mean, it's some sort of Ukraine, like, why are you concerned about it? And I was like, what? What? And then it came to me that maybe something that it's important to us because it affects us in one particular way is not really affected someone else in another country or maybe even a different city. So I think that this is the problem, that the world is not united, and it's like problems of one country are not necessarily the problems of another country. Like, for example, we know everything about the climate being very, sorry, I lost the word. The climate is very rubbished. But on the other hand, we have all Asia, which is eating all of their meals from one-use plates, using only one-use chopsticks. We have all America, who is living very, very not in an ecological way. I mean, of course, we have people that are concerned about it, but on the other hand, we have a huge amount of people that are not thinking about it on a particular daily basis. Because, of course, when Australia was burning, when Spain was burning, when we have droughts, when we have extremely high temperatures, when we have tsunamis, we are all thinking about it. All world is thinking about it. But it's thinking about it only for 1 week, 2 weeks. And later it only affects the ones who are right there in this one particular place. So I think that this could be an answer for your question. I mean, I don't know if anyone wants to add something.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to address something that you mentioned, a very important point of cleavages and access to the information. So there's, I mean, in my opinion, two reasons why we need to be more, that we need to integrate climate change awareness into universities. One is that because of the scope of climate change, we as individuals don't believe that we can do it on our own. We don't believe that me as an individual 17-year-old student can do something to to contribute to helping it, which is why we feel like it's very important to integrate it more into institutions rather than just seek out information on our own. And second of all, it's because we have different access to information as individuals. We don't all watch the same news networks. We don't all experience the same things around us. We need institutions that have this sort of power to inform us more directly, power to integrate us more into current affairs, to kind of carry this knowledge to us. So of course it's our duty as individuals to seek out the best for the world and to try to educate ourselves. But at the same time, information is there, and we often either don't know how to seek it or we don't realize that we do need to seek it, which is exactly why some of us don't realize how big of a scope it is, not because we don't recognize that it's a big issue, but simply because we have not been put in positions that allow us to access as much information as possible, which is, I guess, two reasons why we kind of mentioned the fact that we need more awareness and such, because we are not all as integrated into these affairs as everyone else. So that's just the gist of what I was trying to portray.
I also want to answer. It's a good question. We all answered. I understand the doubt, because it makes no sense that if you have this much information, there's no, people doesn't want to do the things. Why do we want to acknowledge people when we have the phones, we have all the workshops, everything? But in my opinion, the problem is that we need to change our attitude. And we can see it with the pandemics. We are a society that prefers to react than to act. We saw all the data, we saw all the people that were getting sick, but we didn't give the value to that, to those numbers, until it reached all the world, and we had to react again. And it's happening the same now. We are seeing that all the numbers, we are seeing all the heat waves, the snow, everything. But we don't really know, we don't really accept that it can change our lives. It's really hard to accept that if you continue doing something, it's going to destroy your lives. And the main problem of this is that the progress is what is making the climate change race. It's not enough to improve the economy. You have to do it in a good way. And to accept that progress is not the only thing that is needed, it's really hard. So I think that's my opinion. That's a good question.
Okay, thank you so much. I know that we could carry this discussion for the whole day, but we gotta finish it. Thank you so much to all the panelists and all of you for your questions. Of course, feel free to discuss this topic later, but right now we have to move on to our next thing. So, thank you.